Who is the best 9 the US men's national team has? Who's the best center forward? Is it Folarin Balogun that is currently in poor form? Is it Ricardo Pepi that plays for PSV? Josh Sargent from Norwich? Any other random option that you could refer to? Or maybe the best one depends on the opponent, the style of play of the national team. Well, today we are going to be bringing Herc Gomez to discuss this topic. Hi, if you're new here, I'm Filippo, and welcome to Tactical Manager TV, and welcome to episode 2 of this 3-episode mini-series with Herc Gomez. For episode 1, we mainly focused on the US men's national team in the 2024 Copa America. The episode is out, so go check it out so you don't miss out on it. For today's episode, me and Herc will be debating who is the best US men's national team 9. And then the last episode of this series that'll probably be out next week, we are going to be addressing issues the US men's national team must address as soon as possible for the 2026 World Cup. So sit back, relax, get some popcorn, some Cheetos, or some pão de queijo, whatever you want to eat. I don't judge. Do as you wish. As long as you hit the like button for this video, I will not be angry. And let me know who is the best US men's national team 9 at the moment, and who is the best center forward the United States men's national team has ever had throughout history. And let's bring in Herc Gomez to discuss this topic. All right, everyone, we're back here with Herc. I'm not going to ask how you're doing, Herc, because we never really left for this recording. But Herc, we talked about the Copa America in the last segment, and now I want to focus more on the U.S. men's national team, even though we talked about them a little bit there. And for this episode, I want to talk about the U.S. men's national team 9 debate, the 9 debate, because why don't I do this? Before I do any introduction, why don't I let you give us maybe your top 4 or 5, whatever you feel comfortable giving, however far you feel going.
I just did this on Football Americas on ESPN Plus, and I think it was number 5 was Brandon Vasquez. Yeah, yep. Exactly. Number 5 was Brandon Vasquez, and that pretty much is because that number 5 spot can go anywhere. It was like by default because, and bear with me, in no specific order, but Daryl Dike has still not, played his first game when I gave that number, 5. He just played his first game, scored in his debut, coming back from his Achilles injury. Great story for Daryl Dike. Hopefully he keeps crushing it. It could be Haji Wright. It could be actually Haji Wright was my 4. So it could.
Yeah. I was going to correct you because Haji was your 4.
Yeah, but it could be Brandon Vasquez, Jesus Ferreira. It could be Duncan McGuire. Whoever is coming up in that moment. It's a fluid. People need to realize this list is fluid. Number 4, Haji Wright. He's finally scoring goals again. The crazy thing about this is he's doing it from like a wide position. He's been playing on the left for Coventry, and he's finally scoring some goals there. Good to see him back, getting goals scored. Let me tell you something about these players. I love these players. I tried these players on either at Football Americas or Vamos. I've been trying to get Haji Wright on Vamos for the longest time. The man agreed to it, spoke to both parties, both camps, the Men in Blazers Network and Coventry, and he was all in. Stopped scoring goals, no longer wants to do the interview. Like that's how these footballers are. I was included in this spread, but they're all psychological. Don't want to mess with it, All right, Haji Wright, number 3. I believe I had number 3, Josh Sargent.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Josh Sargent too. For my money, is the most talented 9. Now, don't confuse talent with anything else. Like when I think about talent, I think about what encompasses a forward, like what makes a forward complete. So let's do a 1 through 10 ranking of touch, IQ, tactical awareness, speed, physicality, finishing, right foot, left foot, header. All these different things like aggressiveness, defensive attributes. And if I go down the list of 1 through 10, when I look at Josh Sargent, like he may not have the speed of a Folarin Balogun or how direct Folarin Balogun is, and he may not have the sixth sense in front of goal of a Ricardo Pepi to find the ball. But look at everything else. It's like 8 across the board when these players go down drastically on something. When the IQ isn't there, when the combination play isn't there, when the willingness to combine isn't there, where all these different attributes come into play, he's higher across the board than all these other forwards. That's what makes him, for me, the most talented.
So he's like Mario in Mario Kart, very well rounded. You never played Mario Kart, have you?
Of course, I played Mario Kart, man. Come
So
on.
when you're
I was just,
selecting,
I
when
was
you're
just, that was just a bad joke. That's like a dad joke from you. What's
It's not
going
a
on?
dad joke. It's a good analogy. It's a good analogy. Like when you're selecting a character and you look at their attributes in Mario Kart, Mario is always the one that's well-rounded. Then you pick Bowser,
Right.
he's like super heavy and can body
There you
people.
go. Think of it that way.
Mario is well that it was a good analogy.
Toad has
Come
got
on.
a lot of speed,
I'm
whatnot,
good with
acceleration.
Nintendo analogies. I'm really good with Nintendo. You
Okay,
can't
well,
see it, but I have a bunch of Pokemons behind me.
I cannot see it.
I'll
It's
keep it
it's
covered.
but
I
it's
have it.
very unfortunate I can't see it. But all right. So when I go across the board, he's just the one who's highest across the board on everything. Like he would come out across the board higher than these forwards would for me. And then Folarin Balogun, who the moment I saw Folarin Balogun, I said this guy's best attribute is his movement. Like the way he moves off the ball, the way he understands like players who can do special things with the ball, how direct he is, verticality, how direct he is, how fast he can be. He's got a good finishing sense. I like that about him. But if you have a player like that, you need to use a player like that. He can't be on the field with the sole purpose of the system trying to get the most out of your wingers, trying to get the most out of these goal dangerous wingers that you have, like a Christian Pulisic, like a Timothy Weah getting behind defender. Like you need to know when to insert a player like that. You need to know when to unleash a player like that. And it's maybe not his fault, but I don't think that's been the case with the U.S. men's national team. And you can sit here and maybe tell me if I'm wrong, but what's been his best game for the U.S. men's national team? The final against Canada in the Gold Cup where he scores the goal. And that
Nations
was
League,
like
yeah. It was
Nations
the
League
Nations League final, probably
in
the
Las
best
Vegas.
one.
Yeah, and you
Yeah,
saw brief moments, right? Because if you think about the big players in that game, like there are other moments that stand out. And we'll get into it right now. But then number one, Ricardo Pepi. Just a lot of this has to do with the moment, and that's what I want people to realize. This is a fluid list. It's about the moment. If you're at 9, you do know well for me being a player that can't score goals or assist. Like numbers are cold hard facts and evidence. And listen, I lived by it and I died by it. Like I wish you can keep living off your past forever. You know, I won a goal scoring title, and every team after that was just like, "Hey man, that was great, but how about you do something for us now?" You know what I mean? Like you got to do something now, and if not, it's on to the next, and that's the way it works, especially with the national team. Like national teams aren't engraved or set in stone. I had a run after the 2010 World Cup where I didn't get called up to national team for years. So like in my social media bio was ex US men's national team player because that's the mentality you need to have. Nothing is set in stone and nothing is guaranteed. Thanks for switching and pledging your allegiance to this national team, but that doesn't mean you're going to have a starting position for forever. Like there are players who were in that position. There were players who got left out of after saving the coach's job. There are players right now who are scoring goals, and I think sometimes we get lost in how many goals one scored last year and where they played at that time last year and who they gave up to be here with instead of what can we do now? What can we do today? So this is a very fluid list. But Ricardo Pepi, who I think got robbed for the U.S. men's national team player of the year, is number one on my list right now. Folarin Balogun, I'm still giving a lot of credit to because I could see the potential there and the movements, but he's not had a very good season with Monaco. He's not had a very good, campaign so far with the U.S. men's national team, unless you think otherwise.
no, I think he hasn't had with Monaco. He's really good with runs, and I guess we
Yes.
could say his start with the U.S. men's national team was good. He struggled a little with Mexico, but then scored in the final, so that start was good. Um, I think the difference between these center forwards is Josh Sargent can do a little bit of everything right there, playing up
Yes.
top. Hold up is good, can combine, drop deep. Balogun, in my opinion, shouldn't be dropping deep.
Exactly, and I don't understand why people don't see that. Like, if you can't drop and facilitate for Greg Berhalter, this is why he loves Jesus Ferreira. You can't make these other players shine as much, and these other players being the wingers. I,
Yeah.
I really think that's Greg Berhalter. That's where he wants his danger areas to be, is in the flanks.
I think it's more of a Berhalter being a bit stubborn issue with that because I do think you need to find a way to fit in a player that literally scored over 20 goals in a top 5 a league that's tough. Like Liga ain't a joke. I
No,
know
no,
Ronaldo called the Saudi league better, but it was an unserious take. You can't really take him too seriously. Uh, the thing with Balogun is he's a player that can create his own shot, which is not really Pepe's game or Sargent's game. He can create it off the dribble, can't combine in tight spaces. but he struggles a little bit with his off the ball movement when it's like against a low block. It seems like he doesn't know where to be. Pepi's good at that because when you're
Yeah.
whipping in crosses, Pepi knows where to be. Sargent is somewhere in between those two when it comes to that. Now, Balogun, when it comes to transition, when you put in transition, it's not even close when it comes to that with Sargent or Pepi. For
Yeah.
what Berhalter wants, Pepi sorta is the best fit right there, in my opinion, for what he wants. A lot of crosses, Berhalter ball, which is kind of a bit of a surprise why Pepi was not in the World Cup, but because he was already scoring for Groningen at that time. I still think the most talented one is Balogun. And here's the thing, you played as a forward. And this is what we normally say in Brazil, and I'm going to stick to it because that's what we believe in. The toughest thing in this game, soccer, is to score goals. It's not to
Mm-hmm.
defend. So the
I,
forwards are always going to get more praise,
I
and the
couldn't
guys that
agree
can
with you.
score, the guys that can score, the guys can create. Create is also almost as hard as scoring, sometimes even harder. But those two go along. That's why we always praise the center forward instead of the center back. Like Virgil van Dijk is the same level for his position when he was in his prime that Erling Haaland is. But we're all going to talk more about Erling Haaland scoring the
Right.
goals, Kevin De Bruyne creating. So my point with that is Pepi scores. That is true. Sargent maybe scores less than Balogun and
Sargent scores a lot. He's been scoring. He's been scoring a lot. I mean, his issues staying healthy. That's
but
Josh Sargent's
for the
issue.
national team, one can argue he scores even less than Balogun when we look into it.
Well, look at the competition he's played against. Like, how many times have we seen? Here's my thing with
I
Josh
think he only
Sargent.
scored against like Cuba
Who
and those
who's
are
the best? Who is the best nine at the World Cup?
for the US. Sargent
Yes,
easily.
Sargent. Yeah.
Easily.
Did he score a goal?
No, he got a hockey assist where he set up the first
No,
goal of
no.
the World
Who
Cup, but
scored
no.
the goal? Who scored the goal? Do you remember?
Pulisic and Way always. Pulisic Way and Haji
Haji.
Wright. Haji Wright. Haji
Haji
Wright.
was Haji was the nine that scored the goal, and it was a
Yeah.
crazy goal. It's a goal. It's a
Yeah.
crazy goal. Like, that's a goal that I'm claiming as well. It's a crazy goal. He scores a goal, but we're in agreement that the best nine at the World Cup was Josh Sargent. He was also what, 20 when he was at the World Cup as a starting nine for the U.S. men's national team.
Thought
He's
he was a bit
22,
older.
23. I
22
think he's
probably.
20. Yeah, I think
22.
he's 22, 23 now. I think it took, and people are so unfair with Josh Sargent. Like, oh, he didn't do it with Schalke. Like, do you know what that Schalke team like went through when he was
No,
there at the
Werder.
end?
He
And he
was
was
playing for Werder. Schalke was
Werder Bremen.
Weston.
Excuse me.
Weston,
Yes,
Weston and
excuse me.
Hoppy played for Schalke. Sargent
And then he
was
got
Werder Bremen.
Werder Bremen, and he got yes. Do you know what happened with that Werder Bremen team when he was there? And then he goes to Nottingham Forest, and he's playing out wide, trying to
Herc,
facilitate and
Herc,
do the
they're
dirty
gonna
work for
kill you
Phuket.
here, man. Norwich, not Nottingham Forest.
What did I say, dude?
No,
It's been
it's
an early one.
look. The only difference here is you're confusing the names there. You're not pulling a Jesse Marsh and going Yusuf Musa and then Jimmy Conrad and Charlie Davies just stay there and don't correct. It's like, guys, step in,
Yeah.
correct the guy. And
Let
here
me defend Jesse, and I'm sure this happens to you. Like, we watch so many leagues, so many games,
yes.
so many players. Like, and forgive me, because I was just having a discussion with Tony Miola on the podcast, and I different things come in different places. So forgive me on that one.
I just mispronounce so many names that people don't even care when I get it wrong anymore.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is, like, if you look at like his progression, the guy has progressed, and when he's healthy and in position, he's done very well. Now, listen, we could sit here and argue about the level in the championship and how it equates to the Eredivisie, how it equates to, Ligue 1, all these different things. Those are fair analysis. Okay. But when you combine the two, I do feel Ricardo Pepi has an edge when you combine his club play and his country. Now, the thing for Ricardo Pepi and Peter Bosch, the coach at PSV, has even said it. Ricardo Pepi's deal is, it's bad luck. He's playing behind what right now is arguably one of the Eredivisie MVPs, and Luc de Jong, who's got double-digit goals, going on double-digit assists. He's a team captain, 34 years old. Like, there's no move in this guy. But when Ricardo plays, in the limited time that he plays at the club level, he's extremely effective. And in the limited time he's played at the national team level, nobody's been more effective. That's why I say he got robbed. Like, he was an historic player in this national team campaign the last year, and they gave it to Christian Pulisic. Now, with all due respect, Christian Pulisic's going to have 4 more of these, absolutely. And what he's doing at AC Milan is ridiculous, and I've been driving the bus, behind that for a while. but it's not what you did at AC Milan. It's what you did at the national team this year. And there's no player that's had a greater impact in the brief time he's been on the field than Ricardo Pepi. And and I'll say it again. My 5, as your 5 should be fluid, because it's not who I think is the best 5 or 9 of all time. It's who's having the best moment right now, because that's what you want, right? You said it. Goals. You want a goal scorer who's going to score goals, who's going to continually score goals. So it's got to be the hot hand, if you will, and that's going to take a lot of this going on.
I just think the U.S. men's national team, not just for Balogun, but other players, were better in transition. And if you play in transition, Balogun would be the choice for the center forward. I'm pretty sure from most people. And then I think Pulisic's good in transition. Way is good in transition.
Yeah.
I think McKennie, surprisingly, people don't talk about this. McKennie can pick a pass in transition too. He can put a through ball. He can find. Reina is an option. So that's the way I see it. And like I was talking about, the talent of being able to beat the man off the dribble, create your own shot, that is something Balogun can do better than the others. I think he's the most talented one. I would personally try not to build a team around Balogun by any means, but I would try to focus on the strengths of this team, and it would be transition, and Balogun would be my starter. And I would rank it right now. If I had to rank it, I agree that it can be fluid. And if Balogun is struggling the way he is and Pepi's scoring goals left and right, yeah, just go and start Pepi. But if I had to rank it right now, my top 3 at least, because we already talked about how the other ones, it's a little tricky after that.
Yeah.
But clearly the top 3 right now would be Balogun, Pepi, and Sargent. I would probably go with number 1. I'll go still with Balogun. I'm sticking to that. I'll go Pepi number 2. Probably the best right now poacher, I would say, out of these 3. And then I guess Sargent would be the best deep lying, pressing forward. That's what he would be for it. I would still persist a bit more with Balogun. I also think Balogun with the United States, the more he plays with Reina, Pulisic, Weah, they'll learn to play. It's not like they played a lot of minutes together too.
That's another thing, is getting these players in the field at the same time, because this generation has proven not to be healthy. There's always somebody missing. If you go back, I mean, I can't think of the last time you had everybody healthy. You had everybody, an optimal level. So it's going to be very, very difficult. I agree that the U.S. men's national team, especially in a tournament setting, should be a few things that scream transition, difficult to play against, defensively stout, offensively fast, quick, decisive. All those things scream transition. The problem with that is we've seen that once. We saw that team against England. Even Iran. I don't want to get into. Even Iran had their moments where they really, really pressed the U.S. men's national team, and there was spaces to exploit. I think we've seen that version once, and to some extent, defensively sound with possession and flank play like Berhalter wants, just against Mexico and Cincinnati. If you think about it, that was the most complete performance. Other than that, you're still waiting for those moments for that team. So we can sit here until we're blue in the face about how we want them to play. The reality is this team hasn't played anywhere close to what we think they can play in big tournaments and get a result, not just a tie.
And we're recording this late January of 2024. What is your top 3 right now, if you had to go from the top of your head, with Balogun, Sargent, and Pepi?
I'd say the same.
Say the same, yeah. And then obviously, depending on the situation, you would flip or switch.
Yeah, I think my problem is I know what I would do, and then I know what Greg Berhalter would do. Berhalter sees profiles of players. He saw a profile of Ricardo Pepi that he thought couldn't play well against England. He thought couldn't play well against Iran, couldn't play well against Wales. And he thought Sargent and Jesus Ferreira could, and Haji Wright could. Like, there were profiles that could. But in those profiles of players, like, sometimes you just got to let a player play, because, he was finally scoring goals in the Eredivisie with Groningen, and then you end up playing the Netherlands in the next round, and it's Jesus Ferreira for 45 minutes, and you had a player who's been killing it and continues to kill it in the Netherlands against a Dutch team that a lot of those players are from that league. So I don't know. These profiles can go out the window. I know what I would do. I just unfortunately think I also know what Berhalter would do, and he would pick those profiles.
Berhalter in that game, I think he even panicked and he put Gio Reyna as a false nine for a couple minutes,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
insane. He had never played false nine for us that I can
He
remember.
yeah, and he was I mean, we all know what happened with Gio, now, but he was in a different I mean, that's a difficult headspace for a young player to be in and then playing in a different position and in a very
Mhm.
important game like that.
All right, everyone, let us know in the comment section of this video what would be your ranking for the center forwards: Pepi, Balogun, Sargent, or Jesus, Brendan Vasquez, DK. I think after that, it's just kind of like messy to figure it out. Thanks for watching.
I like Duncan. I like Duncan.
I don't.
You don't like Duncan? I
I
think it's a
watched
good
him quite a bit.
combination.
I
Jason,
watched him quite a bit.
listen, don't be a hater. You said goals are important. This kid scores goals. He
I
scores
think
goals.
he
He finds way.
massively outperformed his XG. I don't think it's sustainable. We'll see. And he is still one of those players. I look just to close this because I don't want people to take this out of context. I think athletic ability, the more like Erling Haaland is an athletic freak, right? So
Yeah,
that's
the
really
game has
important for his jump.
changed. The game has
But
changed.
I don't like players that exclusively rely on that. And a lot of Duncan's game is that he's very physical, very fast, can hit play and very powerful strikes. But I just don't know, man. I watched it with Orlando. I even said this before. When Duncan was in our team, I said, we're not winning MLS Cup if Duncan McGuire is our starting center forward. We're not winning it. And guess what happened? We fell very short, very, very short. Not because of him specifically. He's not
Wow,
the
you lost
problem.
to the MLS Cup champions.
Yeah, we probably should have won. But anyhow,
Let me just say, let me just add this on Duncan. Okay, um, I have to give Orlando a lot of credit. They do very well at finding these gems at the 9 position.
Folarin,
Kyle
DK.
Laren, Daryl Dike, Duncan McGuire, and they've all gone on to higher levels. Duncan McGuire, the game has changed. He's got athleticism and he's got a sixth sense for goal, and he scores all types of goals. I mean, you can say what you want about Michael Bradley and his pace on that goal that he scored, like the last goal he scored in the season against Toronto, but that was a ridiculous finish. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Sombrero to get past him, it shows speed, he shows strength, poise, the strike. I mean, it's a hell of a strike. He scores off headers, he scores in transition. There's use for a player like that, and he's still raw. Like, he's so young. He's at 21, 22. He's going to be U23. He's going to be an Olympic player.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, don't give up on the kid yet. I know you're a professional Orlando City hater, but don't give up on him yet.
No, I'm not. I'm on the contrary. I'm a Orlando City fan, and there's a lot of players in Orlando City that I'm a big fan of. And I think Duncan is a really good super sub. That's what I've been saying. I think you need that energy, you need that physicality. He's no scrub. Definitely not a scrub.
Right.
And I think that if Orlando could sign a very good center forward and have Duncan come off the bench, 30, 20 minutes left with the physical presence he has, and again, instinct for goals in a Major League Soccer, I'm all for that. I just don't see him being the type of center forward that will. I even prefer Jesus Ferreira over him. More technical player, in my opinion. I personally prefer that.
Jesus to me is not a 9. I think he's a very good player, and he gets a bad rap. He gets a bad rap just across the board. But listen, I had a take a while ago that if Jesus Ferreira went to Europe like right now, he'd probably be the first player in a top 5 league to get like double-digit goals and assists, but not as a 9. Like, I think he's a very talented. He could be a very talented 8. He could be very talented 10 in certain setups. Maybe not at the top 5 level to be a 10, but I think he's very intelligent and he scores goals. I mean, all types of goals, and his movement's fluid. It's crisp. He's got high IQ. You've never seen his dad play.
I've heard of him. He played in Brazil for Atlético Paranaense too, Davi
Yeah.
Ferreira. So I guess there's some flashes of memory him in Atlético because I was obviously following Palmeiras because that was in the late 2000s there, 2009 or
Yeah.
something. Then he came to MLS, and I don't remember him in MLS, to be
Yeah,
honest.
you were probably too young. His dad was a former MVP, but he was very silky on the ball. He was very just fluid in passing, great vision. Jesus has that, but he's got like a killer instinct in or around the goal, like to get the ball in the net, whether it's him or somebody else. Like, his dad was very much, he kind of had a Brazilian way of playing, like a more carefree. Do you know
You're
what I mean?
Colombian, right? South American, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But everyone, let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.